So when will you find out that you really don't know what you're doing? Who's going to catch you out? Who's going to find out? Because we see this problem all the time. It's one of the most common things we deal with. Don't worry, you're not the only one. Millions of people go to work wondering when they're going to get found out. And here's the strange thing. They wonder this even though people say to them that they're doing a great job. Millions of people have this conflict of when they're going to get found out for not being good enough or not being smart enough or not knowing what they're doing. Even though their bosses, their colleagues, clients said to them, great job, well done, brilliant. But they won't let themselves believe it. So it feels like you're still just getting away with it. So I just want you to think about this. Do you have this problem? But do you also have people who actually, much to your bemusement, say, you're good. Thanks for that. Great job. Because we hear it all the time. It's a really common but very damaging conflict. So the simple solution would be to believe that you are good enough. And whenever I ask this of my clients and I say, so when will you be good enough? It's incredibly rare. Now, out of, say, 100 people, less than 5 will actually have a specific thing that they need to be good enough at. So most people, when I say, when will you be good enough, can't answer the question. Now that creates what's called a sabotage loop. When you're desperate to try and make sure you're feeling good enough. And this is why sometimes you create some of the most amazing results, because you're diligent, you work hard, probably long hours, you are very conscientious, often you overwork, sometimes you got a perfectionist nature. These are all the common things I hear, because you're trying to hit this, when am I going to be good enough so nobody will find out that I'm not? So if it was that easy, you'd already be doing it, because I'm sure that if you've got this problem, you've thought about it a lot. Perhaps you've read books, you've had coaches to tell you to build your confidence. We hear this all the time, that, they tried to, create the confidence that was going to magically make everything okay and the conflict go away. Books, coaches, videos, but nothing has helped. So this problem has gone on for most of the time for most people for years. And usually, this is the interesting thing, way, way before people ever started at work. Now, if you think about this, if you've got I'm not good enough, have you had that longer than you've been working? Because again, most of the people we work with, this started when they were kids. So they're looking for people to say, hey, you are good enough. They're looking for this validation often from somebody else to say, well done. And it often is from their past. Perhaps it was a parent who never said they were proud of you, or a teacher who said you're not very good at something. They're waiting for this magic thing to make them good enough. But because they're so fearful of messing up and failing and getting found out, losing your job, the brain accidentally creates this, what we call a sabotage loop, of creating excessive fear, which makes you worry about all these things going wrong and people finding out about you. And actually, if you have said this to a boss or a friend, they'll look at you as if you're what's your problem? You're brilliant at what you do. You're really diligent at what you do. You try hard. And I was working with a client just last week who spent hours and hours and hours doing things just to make sure that no one could criticize them. And when they should have been spending time with their family, they were working and working and working. So it's a really common thing. Don't worry, you're not the only one. But here's the thing. No amount of external validation will fix the belief that you have that you're not good enough. You have to fix that yourself, because that is, well, another way of looking at it is called the Imposter Syndrome. We don't tend to use that when we're working with clients. We call it the not good enough problem, but most people heard this as the Imposter Syndrome. So imposter syndrome is like, I don't deserve to be here. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I don't have the right qualifications. Wow, if I've heard that once, I've heard it 1,000 times from clients. I shouldn't be at this level. And I hear this from people starting out, from people in middle, or even senior, right at the very top and CEO level. They're waiting to be found out. So this is why we've called this a taboo topic, because nobody wants to admit it out loud. They admit it to us when they pluck up a bit of courage and get in contact, because this is what we specialize in, one of the things we specialize in. Because people won't admit it to other people around them, because obviously damaging reputation, your position, or losing your job. If you go and say to your boss, well, I'm actually not good enough. And it's a real problem. And this is a massive problem within businesses, because you'll have people perhaps working for you who have this, who are underperforming or hyper perfectionists in their nature, so they're overworking and actually not working in the best way they could. So it causes lots of problems for companies, not just the individual, because rather than working to their talents and skills, they're driven by fear. And that's the trouble with this. People are scared of bringing up the problem, which actually is pretty easy to fix, because of the possible consequences of people finding out, yeah, you really aren't good enough, are you? So this severely holds back careers, because they don't go for the next level when they should be. And this is what puzzles bosses. Why aren't you going for this level? Why aren't you going for the promotion? Why aren't you starting your business, for example? Because, well, I'm not good enough at this one. I've got to get this right first. I work with so many people that've had this problem. They have that ambition, they have that drive, but they won't let themselves. And as soon as they realize that this comes from some echo of the past, and we turn that off, they say, I can do this job. And then they'll put themselves forward for the position that perhaps they should have been going for years ago, but they've held back from. So why do so many talented people do this? Why do so many people not believe that they're good enough? And the reason is they choose not to. Now, this may seem a bit strange, because what happens is it's a bit of an accidental trick the brain plays. If you have a conflict thinking, I know I'm better than this, that's what I call the real you talking. You know you're capable. But it's a part of your brain that says, if I say I'm good enough, then they're fearful of the consequences of believing in themselves. And that's what creates the loop. It's a bit weird and counterproductive and a little bit strange to think about it. It's not logical. That's why we call it actually emotional logic. It's driven by the emotional part of your brain saying, I better not believe in myself, so I don't put myself in a position where people could find out that I'm not that good. So people hold back and not believing in themselves, even when they do know where they're capable, and they have other people saying they're capable, because the consequences of believing in themselves will put themselves in a position of fear, of vulnerability, of danger. So what they do is they hold on to it, and that's what creates this weird loop. Now, everyone's got a slightly different loop, but we can find that. Well, I guarantee we can find out what that is, that thinking is, and where it all started from in just in a couple of hours. But we don't want to let it go, because the consequences of believing in yourself is scary to this thinking, not to the real you. You want to do this. You want to get on. You want to make the most of your career, earn the money you should be earning, doing the job you like, you should be doing, you should be enjoying, at the level you should be working at. But this part of the brain is terrified of the consequences of believing in yourself. Hence, it gets caught up in this loop. So getting rid of imposter syndrome is much easier than people think. Even though you might have had it 10, 20, 30 years, it's really common for it to be that long. Usually it starts when we were quite young. Takes 4 weeks. Takes 4 weeks. That's all it takes. So we've helped thousands of people break through their imposter syndrome. But actually, that's not the best bit. The best bit is when what they go and allow themselves to do. They put themselves forward to the jobs they should be going, and people get those jobs because they've been working at a level that's too low, and everybody around them knows that. So if we think back right to the very beginning, and I said, basically I want people holding themselves back, even though people around you know that you're good at what you do. Your clients, your colleagues, your boss, says, what's the problem? Great work. So if you've got that strange mix of approval, but you don't allow yourself to believe it, it's just something here you need to change. It takes about 4 weeks. And then it's amazing what you let yourself do. But just remind yourself, remember, as I just said, you won't want to let this go. So most of our clients get in contact with us because they're frustrated enough now to do something about it. They're so frustrated they missed out on the things that they know they should be doing. They missed out on another job. Somebody said that to me last week. I missed out on a job that someone who worked for me got because they had this. They should have had that job. It's actually probably even below them. So if you are frustrated enough to want to explore turning off this imposter syndrome, let's just have a chat. We'll have a conversation and we can start exploring, and we'll explain how quickly you can get rid of it. And then let's look more importantly about what you're going to achieve afterwards, because that's the main thing. What is it that you know you should be achieving? But there's a part of your brain that doesn't want to believe in yourself, even though you do know how good you are. If you have that conflict, give us 4 weeks. We can solve it. Please get in touch. I'd love to help you. Thanks for your time. I hope this has helped you get a little bit frustrated enough to overcome your fear of taking action to deal with it. Take care, and I really hope to speak to you soon.